everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Carton Show. Great to have you here. We've streamlined the show today as of being attacked by a terrible towel. It's only the best of what we've got, so no Jacoby today. Greg Jennings is here, though, Mr. Super Bowl champion and Green Bay Packer Hall of Famer, and on time. So you know it's going to be a great show. And Mr. Biggs himself, also another Super Bowl champion, meaning I'm the out guy on the outside looking in. That, of course, is Willie Colon. We have begun Week 9 in the NFL, so let's get a beautiful Friday morning show started with something we like to call Headline. And yeah, your Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, we did.
Much like every other win.
There we go.
It wasn't pretty.
Oh.
But Deontay Johnson gets his first touchdown in 19 years. And the Pittsburgh Steelers win. They beat the Tennessee Titans 20-16. And your boys are now 5-3.
Say it loud for the idiots in the back, Craig.
5-3.
And I come bearing gifts. You guys are terrible towelists, so I brought two. Here we go. There we go. Hey, you're gonna pay for that. No, it was a hell of a game, man.
No, it wasn't.
It was a hell of a game for the Steelers. They won. At the end of the day, you also got to understand, man. In the fourth quarter, the Steelers outscored their opponent 42-11, right? So that's where they maximize and that's where they get it done. Yeah, 4 quarters are ugly, but when it counts, Kenny Pickett, Jalen Wallen, all those guys show up in a major way.
Look, I said it last week. I'll say it again. They're the worst team in the NFL. And to give them, listen, they're 5-3. And as we've said about a lot of teams on this show, you do not apologize for games you win.
No, I thought the way they started that game, it actually gave them the opportunity to win it right out the gate, to go out and take the ball, go down, put the ball in the end zone, give your defense a chance to play with the lead, something that they don't do too often. That was huge for them.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, the decision not to defer. Most teams do, right? But they go right down the field, boop, boop, boop. They get the touchdown, and they hang on. And that's even with George Pickens not getting his left foot down in the end zone. We'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. Headline number 2, in the AFC, this is the game a lot of people have circled, and for good reason. You're talking about 2 of the best teams in the NFL as the Kansas City Chiefs and the Miami Dolphins get it on. It's the early morning game because this game is being played in Frankfurt, Germany, and the Chiefs are favored by 1.5 coming off, of course, a bad loss to the Denver Broncos. Miami, this is kind of like their, I call it a bellwether game, the game that they're going to figure out how good are we. We are now going up against a winning team. Let's find out what the Dolphins are all about.
Yeah, the bright spot for the Kansas City Chiefs is obviously the offense, but when you go back and look at it, they've only scored 30 points twice this year. That was against the Bears and Chargers, right? So now you have this high-octane offense of Miami Dolphins coming in. Can they keep up? Because Travis Kelce has been very vocal this week, talking about, hey, man, I've never been in this position before. We've never been this stagnant. We've never had the issues I've dealt with this year. I think this calls for concern in Kansas City.
But what's interesting is that, and he's right, but they've only got 2 losses, and they are on top of their division. And, yes, when you lose to the Denver Broncos and the production's just not there, maybe there's cause for concern. I will tell you this. They've never lost 3 consecutive games with Patrick Mahomes, so it'll be interesting to see what the Kansas City Chiefs do. I'm expecting a blow. I think Miami could blow them out. A shootout. Thank you. It's Friday, and I did drink last night. Headline number 3, the best game in the NFC is the battle of the NFC Eastern foes, and that, of course, the Philadelphia Eagles at home against the Dallas Cowboys. And it's Jalen Hurts, and it's Dak Prescott, and the Cowboys have won 8 of the last 11 games against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, this is an important game for both of these teams, obviously, because of the NFC implications of who's going to be that number 1 seed. I believe one of these teams will be that. But for the Dallas Cowboys specifically, this is an opportunity to build on what you've established offensively against a defense that has struggled, has voids in their secondary. Can you, if you're Dak Prescott, take advantage of it? We shall see.
Winner of this game owns home field advantage throughout the playoffs. They're in control of it. So that's why this game is so big. Plus, you have Cowboys-Eagles as always. A great matchup no matter what the teams are doing. Which brings us to the 4th and final headline of the day. If you don't wake up early to watch Kansas City, Miami, well, then you'd make the argument the other great game in the AFC is this one. It's the Cincinnati Bengals at 4-3 in last place in the AFC North against the Buffalo Bills, 5-3, hanging on just behind the Miami Dolphins, and of course a playoff rematch from last year. And I don't know how anybody predicts how this game turns up, but I promise you this, we will discuss it at length a little bit later on in today's program, and hope you're having a great Friday. We're excited to be here with you as well. Coming up, let's start off with Philly and Dallas, and we'll start breaking down what the guys think about that game, a battle of quarterbacks. And whichever quarterback outplays the other one, that is the quarterback that will jump right up to the top of the list as MVP candidate.
There we go.
Right after this. But, dude, you scored 20 points.
There we go.
Yeah, let's take a break. Yeah. Hi, welcome back to the Carton Show. And real quick, I know it's a big NFL Friday, but the number one pick in the draft, Wembanyama, had a great game, his best game in his very short NBA career, but he dropped 38 points. And for the second time in 4 days, the San Antonio Spurs have beaten KD and the Suns yet again. And you saw the entire arsenal of offense on display, the touch from outside, obviously there on the alley-oop, which he doesn't flush, but the spin move baseline, the left hand from the opposite side of the goal, and that's exactly why that dude was the first overall pick. His best game as a pro.
Absolutely, and I think what was so impressive about this game, for me, if you've been watching the Spurs, which we all kind of are because of Wemby, like they haven't truly been playing through him, and I thought last night was the first time we got to see this young team who's all trying to make a name for themselves actually play through who we all know and believe to be their best player, and he was impressive.
Well, it's only been a couple weeks, but he is averaging 20 points a game, 8 rebounds a game, and just over 2 blocks a game. So far, so good.
Yeah.
And he's going to struggle, and he's going to have great nights like last night. And there was no answer for him from the Suns, so they beat him for the second time, like I said. And they scored over 130 points, so the Suns have a defense problem. But much more of that as the NBA season starts to roll on. We've got a huge matchup. The Philadelphia Eagles, the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts. I think the Cowboys are going to play very well in this game. I think Dak Prescott is going to outplay Jalen Hurts and become a front runner for the MVP. But let's slow our roll here for a second and start with Dak Prescott talking about what it's like playing in Philadelphia. Go ahead.
It's just a good atmosphere for football, honestly. I guess you say having grown up in the SEC, a lot of different venues and stadiums that just you can feel it the time you get near the stadium, eat, sleep, breathe the game of football, the fans' excitement. When you walk into the Philadelphia Stadium, it's no different. It feels like some of those old Saturday nights. Fans are going to get loud. You got to make sure your communication is top notch, and then and then it's fun always getting a win up there.
Yeah, it's funny to me that he's been in the league for 8 years and he's still referencing back to his college days for what it's like in Philadelphia. But those drunken animals will obviously be heard because they have the entire afternoon and morning to drink, and then drink some more, and then drink some more, and then knock down some nitrous balloons, and then drink some more, and then stumble into the link for the big game against the hated rival. But Dak Prescott, and I know every time I see him, it's almost like you're looking for the holes, a little chink in the armor, right? And he doesn't give it to you. And that's partially the maturity of being in the league almost a decade now, but also the fact that he happens to be playing really good football.
Yeah, part of that is because his confidence is high right now. We talk about how he rebounded after that 49ers game, beating the Chargers, going against the Rams, going 25 for 31, 4 touchdowns, throwing over 300 yards.
Yeah.
That's a guy who flat out feels like I have arrived, right? And there was so much talked about him and this offense, this Texas Coast offense. Well, now I feel like he's actually embodied the offense because now it's no longer Dink and Dak. Now he's taking legit shots down the field. Now you're seeing CeeDee Lamb pop off the tape. Now you're seeing this offensive line really do better because he's getting rid of the ball and he's getting yards and chunks. So I'm happy where he's at, and you got to be comfortable where he's at.
To be totally fair, though, and I'm a Dak guy. I've been on Dak for a while now. That didn't sound right. That being said, in the big games they've had and the games they've blown other teams out, it has been more than just the offense, right? Mm-hmm. Their defense has gotten turnovers and scored points. Yeah. Special teams has gotten turnovers and scored points. So it seems to me when Dak's on, and like you said, great game, of course, against the Rams, it's not just Dak. It seems like everybody comes to play.
Yeah, and this is one of those games where, to be honest, when you have strength on strength, meaning the Dak or the Philly offense is their strength, the defense of the Dallas Cowboys is their strength, it can be a wash. And so you're looking at the other units that aren't your strengths to step up and take some of that load off. And we haven't seen the Dallas Cowboys play and win that way this season, not yet. So, and Dak Prescott has struggled when he's been expected to carry the load and win important games for his ball club. So that's what I'm really looking for. You talk about MVP implications on this game when we look at the quarterback play. I'm not sure if Dak will be in that conversation, but it will start us talking about it if he plays well.
And he wins
no
this
turnovers,
one.
and they win this.
Yeah, I think no turnovers, plays well. He's the reason, or one of the reasons they win. Then you can start having the conversation. But, there's a flip side to it as well. Not just the battle of the quarterbacks. When you look at the battle of the teams, because San Francisco has now lost 3 consecutive games, right? The winner of this game now has the inside track to the NFC Championship game and beyond. Because if it's the Eagles, they go to 8-1. They'll be a couple games ahead of the Dallas Cowboys, a couple games ahead of the San Francisco 49ers, and they're at least a game better than the Detroit Lions, right? If the Cowboys win the game and they get to 6-2, they're effectively tied with the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, they have their 7th win.
Yep.
But it would also take Dallas, and they would do. It would put them a little bit higher than San Francisco on that ladder of supremacy and give them control. Because what I've learned about guys like you and teams is that you want to control your own destiny.
Hell yeah.
You want to know that if you go on the field and you play your best, your play is going to equate to opportunities to win championships, which you guys both have done. Whoever wins this game now controls that part of how the season ends.
Yeah, that first round bye is huge. I don't know if you went through it, but I went through it when we went for our road for the Super Bowl when I was with Pittsburgh.
I've went through it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know if you went through that.
Just want to address that.
But nevertheless, man, it gives you a chance to get healthy, right?
Yep.
It gives you a chance to kind of regroup from a schematic standpoint and see what you do well and see what you don't do well. And it gives you momentum, right? And so for me, if you're the Dallas Cowboys and everything you've been through this season, if you're able to get that landing spot, now you're the big dog in the room.
Right.
And you got to be ready to go.
And remember, because the playoff format changed a couple years ago, only one team gets it.
Yep.
Correct.
And that makes it even more important to get it because you don't have to win 3 games to get to a Super Bowl. If I told you, you get to stay at home, so the travel part's done, and B, you only got to win 2 games to get to a Super Bowl, it is more valuable than ever. And I'm telling you, whoever wins this game, it's no guarantee, of course, that they're going to go to the NFC Championship game, but you absolutely have the inside track to getting there. And that's because San Francisco has lost 3 straight, and because whoever wins this game has the best shot at winning the division as well.
Absolutely.
Now, when you guys had that with the Green Bay Packers, were there conversations like, oh, we got a big matchup today against it could have been the Lions, but the Bears or whomever it was, in regards to the playoffs, even in November? Or is that like a taboo topic?
No, it's not something that you talk about during the regular season. You know this very well, being on winning teams in Pittsburgh. Like, you don't look that far down the road. Now, if this was later in week 16,
then yes.
Then you're definitely, that's top of mind. But this early in the season, even though we're kind of at that halfway point, you're not thinking about playoff standings as players. You know that it can impact that, but you can't go into this game.
See, and that's why you guys will never understand what it's like to be a fan. Because you guys don't look that far ahead,
well, we
do. We're sitting there, doing what we do. I've already described what we do.
Have the whole season
We're doing it, doing what we do, and we go to the ballpark tonight going, we win tonight. We're going to the Super Bowl. Right? Chuck on.
Right.
That's
Getting tattoos on yourself.
That's right. Players will never understand what it's like to be fans because your perspective changes the minute they pay you to play. Yeah. So I'll be your huckleberry on that.
We're a little
Don't
more
you
sober
worry.
than you guys.
Always more sober.
Always.
And by the way, not a little.
Especially after a win.
That's
tell you that.
All right, listen, coming up, we got the latest on what Brock Purdy's doing during San Francisco's bye week. And we'll start getting into first in football with Pittsburgh's big win last night. And we got some Devontae Adams news. We got some Deshaun Watson news. And tons of Cowboys coming your way as well. Right after this. And it is time now for a little something that we like to call
Shum.
First and Football. And it happened last night, so you got to get into it a little bit. Week 9 of the NFL, and it's the Pittsburgh Steelers, again, winning ugly. Not all that terrific. Offense, not all that great. There's Deontay Johnson's first touchdown in, like, no joke, 670 days. Hadn't scored since 2021.
Correct.
And that's Kenny Pickett. Good pass there by Kenny Pickett. And they beat the Titans 20-16. So they're 5-3, despite being 29th in the NFL in points per game. But there's one play I want to show you guys that happened on their very first drive, which, to be fair, did lead to a touchdown. Steelers' opening drive. So they clearly were focused last night on getting Deontay Johnson the ball. All right, so I want to show you this play, and as a wide receiver, as I was as well, this really bothered me, Greg Jennings. Here's going to be a little dig route. All right, you're 10, 15 yards. Kenny Pickett to Deontay Johnson, and he gives up on it. And I want to show it to you again. If you guys can even slow it down or not, it's fine. He goes up. He never puts his hands above his head to try to catch the ball. He's got 3 Titan defenders, and
you know
he's
why,
like, yeah,
Craig?
no thanks. Because he's going to get laid out.
He's looking at 50.
Well, that for me is a problem in the locker room if you're not willing to lay out to go get a ball.
No, it's not a problem in the locker room. It's a problem in the locker room if I lay out and go get that ball and I don't come back on the field.
Broken ribs, maybe, is what you're saying.
Look, these types of things happen. We don't see them often, but you can't play this way. Both at the quarterback position.
Quit on the ball.
You can't play this way at the quarterback position. Obviously, you got to be more accurate.
That's fair. It starts with that.
But you also can't play this way as a receiver.
Thank you.
Like what you're saying is absolutely correct. You gotta give your quarterback a chance. And in this situation, when your offense has kind of been sputtering, they've been sputtering,
Exactly.
and you've been struggling
5-3, by the way.
from quarterback play. You got to bail your quarterback out. And to that point, that's been my issue with this offense.
Yeah.
They're better receivers, excluding Deontay Johnson because he's been injured. But when we look at Pickens and we talk about the type of player that he can be, and he believes that he can be one of these best receivers in all of football, like you got to bail your quarterback out.
Well, then let me help you out with that. So George Pickens last night had 2 catches for -1 yards.
Yeah.
Why didn't he have a touchdown? Let's show you that play real quick.
Yeah.
In the end zone, chance to take the lead in the third
get your feet
quarter.
down.
And it's a good pass. He gets 1 foot down. At no point does he get that left foot down. He doesn't drag it, doesn't toe tap it. And it's not like it's bang, bang on the sideline where it's a very hard physical maneuver. I don't know if he got lazy or he gave up mentally or you can walk me through it, but he's got about 3 yards to get that left foot down. He does it now. They won the game, so not a lot of people are going to worry about it. I know there are Steeler fans up in arms about it from a gambling standpoint, a fantasy standpoint, but that's not relevant to how guys play the game. The question is, here's an opportunity for Pittsburgh, they're trailing at the time, to take the lead 17-13 and then maybe put Tennessee away. Because he doesn't get that left foot down, they wind up kicking a field goal and tying the game. And again, it was late third quarter, he had plenty of football left. But it's little things like that that make me say on the show, you can't trust the Steelers yet.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. The problem with the Pittsburgh Steelers is that they're consistently inconsistent.
Okay,
right?
fair enough.
And that's the issue, especially when you're dealing with Pickett to Pickens. Even there's another play where you talk about the underneath throw where he has Pickens pretty much all he has to do is put it on him and he may scamper for 20 yards. Pickens just flats out mitts him, right? So if you're Kenny right now, like this is right here, he puts it on him. He's running up the sideline. He may score. There's only one defender on that side of the ball, and he missed him. So when you go back to that play, now you're looking at a receiver who can't find himself within the offense. There's time after time where there's missed opportunities, and when you can't get your foot down in the middle of at the back of the end zone, you're saying that's a kid who just tapped out for a second.
But to my point, that's what I'm talking about, Craig. Like they don't supplement one another. Like if the quarterback makes a good throw, you gotta execute. You gotta finish it.
Yeah.
If you're Kenny Pickens or George Pickens, you gotta get your feet down. If you're Kenny Pickett, you got to make that throw. It's one or the other. Sure. And that's why you saw Matt Canada after that first drive and they get the ball in the end zone. He's like, this is what it looks like. He's excited because we've all been pointing the finger at him. But these two, the quarterback and receiver relationship, we just haven't seen them on the same page.
And that's how guys lose jobs, right? I know Matt Canada made a big decision for this game.
On the sideline.
Normally he's been up in the booth calling plays. As a lot of guys do.
Yeah.
He came down to be on the sideline to call plays, but it doesn't matter matter because he called good plays. Kenny Pickett overthrows the guy.
Correct.
George Pickett doesn't get a foot down. Pickett misses him on that little route there going to the right, right?
Route.
Yeah. So that's why I keep telling you, Mike Tomlin amazes me because they're not a very good football team. I respect their defense, and even there have been some games where I scratch my head and go, maybe they're not even that good. But they're still 5-3. They're a wild card team right now if everything ended today. And yet, I'm like, the Bengals are better than they are. I think the Texans are better than them.
Ooh.
I might take the Chargers over them.
No.
But you can't because somehow, some way, this team has something in their DNA that a lot of teams are looking for and have been for a long time. It's what we say in French, je ne sais que c'est quoi.
Oh, wow.
It's French. It's French for football. Je ne sais que c'est quoi, which is they know how to win.
Well, that's because they show up in crucial situations. You're talking about they ran the ball better, right? Najee Harris started the opening drive with a touchdown. You talk about Jalen Warren really being an absolute heater coming in the second half, making big plays. And on top of that, they have 4 sacks. Alex Highsmith had 2 of those. T.J. Watt had one. So they show up in opportunity. They show up in moments where the opportunities need to be had, and they get it done. So I'm happy with the Steelers 5-3. Just keep going forward.
Yep. Now the Steelers get to sit home on Sunday and watch the Cincinnati Bengals have to play the Buffalo Bills, right? They get to watch the Baltimore Ravens playing the Seattle Seahawks, and they say, we're just going to chill, sit here, and they may come to us when it's all said and done. All right, second in football, Davante Adams. Greg Jennings was right here a couple days ago. Davante's been smiling ever since they fired Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler, the general manager. Here's Davante Adams acknowledging that, yes, he's been smiling, but it ain't no celebration. Listen to DA right here.
Don't get it confused. It's not a celebration that we have a new coach and there's been changes made. We obviously, I think it was time, one way or the other. It was time for some sort of change, just to bring a little juice in and revitalize the team a little bit. And I think it's more of a mindset that we're trying to, not force, but just have moving forward to just be as positive as possible.
I'll get through this one really quick. They do play the New York Giants. Shockingly, they're favored. They'll probably win that game, rally around Antonio Pierce, and this will be the last we ever speak of the Raiders on the show. So let's go to, they're a terrible organization. Let's go to third in football. This guy's becoming a bit of a clown week after week after week. Yeah, and it's my guy, Deshaun Watson. I was so supportive of Deshaun as he went to Cleveland. I've been so disappointed in him ever since he got there. Deshaun Watson, and I'm quoting him now, is not sure if he's going to play Sunday against the lowly quarterback-less Arizona Cardinals. Deshaun Watson did practice yesterday and also said in a post-practice press conference that he acknowledges he came back a little too early when he came back against the Colts and got benched after 5 pass attempts. But this has become a joke. Like, you have a chance right now to going up against a team that, to be fair, doesn't have a quarterback in this game, has waved the white flag. Dobbs got traded, of course, to the Minnesota Vikings. You saw Pittsburgh last night get to 5-3. You've got to do the same thing, and your all-world franchise quarterback isn't sure if he's going to play a football game. Well, don't be a football player if you're not going to play a football game. I hate this. It pisses me off. Clearly. And I feel for Browns fans because you deserve better.
They do deserve better. And I've been on the table time after time talking like, listen, you got to will yourself out there. Nobody feels great this time of year. You're talking about week 9. Guys are going through multiple injuries. A lot of guys are holding on things. There's some guys, as bad as they feel right now, it doesn't matter because that can cost them job. It costs themselves a job if they don't get out there and play. But for Deshaun Watson solely, man, you have to realize they need you, right? P.J. Walker, he's done a valiant job.
Now stop right there because their defense is so good, they might win this game 6-0.
Correct.
All right?
Yeah.
The Cardinals are not going to score much, if at all, against that defense. And here's where I think Deshaun will play. Because he did practice fully yesterday, and they are saying that the ball had zip in it again. My gut tells me he plays, so I want to just couch what I'm going to say, that it's based on him not playing. So I do think he's going to play, but if he doesn't play, and PJ does start another game, and they will beat the Arizona Cardinals, I think irrelevant of who their quarterback is, if PJ starts, they will have won 3 out of the 4 games that he played in. They will keep pace with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They would have pressured, obviously, the Bengals. That game becomes even bigger against the Buffalo Bills. And, of course, Baltimore sitting at the top. There comes a point where if I'm a player, I'm like, look, we're doing enough to win with PJ. I don't want the drama of this other guy. Is he in? Is he out? Can he play?
But Craig, he also may be looking ahead, right? Because after the Cardinals, he has the Ravens and Steelers.
Yeah.
So there's a chance if he's about 60% now, you rest me this week, I can damn sure be 80 or 90 next week.
So
I wouldn't do that.
So
you're going to play him against the Ravens and Steelers without playing any football?
And so that's the point. So I understand that, and I'm looking at it from that lens as well. Like, okay, you don't want him to suffer any further injury in this game. But also what you don't want is the excuse of, oh, we got the Baltimore Ravens the following week. Let's sit Deshaun this week and then let him play against who could be potentially a 7-2 Ravens team if they get the win. And all of a sudden, we expect him to come on the field and be that. That's unrealistic. We haven't seen him be that guy yet. And so this could be a game where you can use to kind of get your feet back underneath you and get that offense.
I view this game like a preseason game where you're trying to get all the kinks out for the more important game next week. And I agree with you 100%, Craig Jennings. If he doesn't play against the Cardinals, a team you should have a lot of success against, no matter what kind of offense you're running, and you just throw him out there against the Wolves, against the Baltimore Ravens, and the Steelers the week after that, how could you then expect him to show up and be a great quarterback?
So quickly, hypothetically, he goes out against the Cardinals and doesn't play well. What happens then?
Well, he's your quarterback either way.
Right? $230 million man.
Because I'll tell you what you're not going to do. If he plays poorly against the Cardinals, even in a win, you're not going to bench him.
Nope.
You're going to war with the guy. But if P.J. Walker starts in this game and you get a win, I just know human nature. I know the way fans are. There's going to be a narrative of, he gives us a better chance to win, and we can't mess around.
It already started.
And we can depend on him.
Yeah. Yes. Bingo, bango, bingo. All right, we got much more coming your way. Travis Kelce is concerned with the Chiefs, and that makes me want to vomit in my mouth.
Vomit?
So we'll get into it. Oh, no. Enough. Take a break. All right, welcome back to the Carton Show Sunday morning out of Frankfurt, Germany. It's Kansas City at Miami. And, of course, Kansas City is coming off that embarrassing loss to the Denver Broncos. First time they've ever lost to Denver in Denver, with Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback and Travis Kelce as the tight end. And you heard after the game first that Mahomes said, well, maybe they've got the blueprint now of how to beat us. Travis Kelce went beyond that on the New Heights podcast presented by Wave Sports and Entertainment. Travis Kelce has never been in this position before, and nobody's crying for him, but we'll let you hear what he had to say. Go ahead, guys.
It's getting real one-sided, and I don't think I've been in a situation where we've stalled this much, like as an offense throughout the year. Definitely at this point in the season, we got a lot of guys that usually figure out how to get this thing going, and you know what? It's frustrating, man.
Oh, it's frustrating. Is it hard to be in first place every week of every year of your career, sitting at 6-2, by the way, and the second best record in all of football, behind only the Philadelphia Eagles? So by default, you got the best freaking record in the AFC, and I've never had this kind of struggle before. I mean, I don't know. Pay more attention to football than who you're dating, maybe. How about that?
This is the guy who never won a championship.
You're damn right I've never won.
Who's never won a damn thing.
Listen, every fan of every other team in America is going, dude, zip your lip and throw away the key, because we don't want to hear you complaining about how uncomfortable this is for Kansas City. You lost one game. Bad loss? Yeah.
Sure.
Bad loss against a team that you're so much better than. But how often has this team lost back-to-back games? Not often.
No.
Matter of fact, it's been about a year plus since they lost, or 2021, I think, right? Since they've lost back-to-back games. But I will say this. When a guy verbalizes frustration and struggle, there's more to it than that. And here's what it is. Kansas City, of course, plays Miami. Going to be a very tough game because of what Miami's what their offense brings to the table. Who does Kansas City play the week after that, Troy? Tell me. They play the Eagles. So we are looking at the possibility, and yes, this would make me very happy, of Kansas City doing something they've never done in the Mahomes era, and that is lose 1, 2, 3 consecutive games. It could start Sunday morning.
It could start. I highly doubt if they lose 3 in a row. But what Travis Kelce is saying is spot on. Like, he's never been through this. This team always figures it out. And if you look at the numbers, they tell the tale of why he's frustrated. Look at these numbers right here. When you look at the 2022 season, through 8 games, this is how impactful and effective they've always been. And then when you compare it to this year, look at the turnovers in the middle of that stat there, where they have the 16 turnovers versus 9. Like, when I look at this team, they are clearly struggling. And I think we have it a little
seems like we have
right
back
there,
reverse
where it should be the 2022 should be 2023,
right,
and
so
the 2023.
let me hang on a second. So if you're looking at that and you're saying, because I've never seen this either, what I'm looking at, that doesn't make any sense at all, because it makes this year look a lot better than last year.
Thanks, guys.
So my gut is that we've got those numbers reverse. But your point is good. Make your point good.
Yeah, what I'm saying is it's real. The frustration is real because this is a team, and I mentioned this yesterday, where you have a guy who's the most impactful player outside of Patrick Mahomes, that we expect greatness from those two.
Yes.
But we also hear him saying we usually figure it out, regardless of who we are on the field with, at receiver, at running back, regardless, we usually have guys smart enough to figure it out and learn how to now take on a lot more and shoulder a lot more, so it's not clearly on Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. And
but if you watch that podcast interview, he talks about the attention to details. It's talking about the bad timing, the drops, the offensive woes, not being able to beat man coverage, right? So those are things that, as an offensive outfit, when you've been to multiple Super Bowls and you know what it takes to get to Super Bowls, you know what you should look like this time of year. And he's looking at himself on tape, because a lot of times in that interview, he's putting his hand up. I've been that guy too. I've missed blocks. I've had drops. I've had MEs. So he's saying to himself flat out, man, me, myself included, we're not who we're supposed to be right now.
What's an ME? Just
mental error.
It's all good.
Apologize.
All right, so there's another side to this we should bring up. You know, if you ask me as a competitor, when do I not want to play a really good team, as Kansas City is, it's often an embarrassing loss. So I think this is, if you play into that a little bit, I think Miami's offense is not going to be stopped regardless, but I wouldn't want to play Kansas City off a loss. I also think, as much as I don't like these international games, that's just personal preference. We don't have to belabor that point of having to watch football at 9 o'clock in the morning. That being said, sometimes the best thing for a struggling team that is kind of like the Beatles when they come to town, because of all their success, pardon me. I didn't mean that. I didn't. I swear I didn't mean that.
That was spot on.
That
was amazing.
For the first time on this show's history, I didn't.
America, wins equals sex. What do you want to do?
I didn't mean it. All right. Success. They are like the Beatles, and the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift thing has made that even bigger, whether we like it or not. There are times when I believe the best thing for a team that's going through that is to get away from everybody. Well, you're going to Germany, and I know the NFL has requirements of your time and press and meeting people and touring the sites and all that stuff, but they're not with their families. They're not with their friends. They're not with the paparazzi. They're in a foreign country, just the 53 guys and the coaching staff, and I think that can play to their favor.
This is where I got pushed back. The families are there, right? Because some of the families ain't never been to London. So there's Germany, excuse me. So there's a distraction from the family. Like, hey, if dad's away, we're going to be away too. But I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about right now is how do they evolve? Because they know they have an issue with the receiving corps. There's only one trusted source, and that's Travis Kelce. You talk about MVS not showing up, Sky Moore, yada, 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 not showing up. But the issue is you have a good running back in Isaiah Pacheco who they're simply not utilizing. So how does he come into fruition? How can you use him in the offense? Because we know the woes right now. One way of fixing it is leaning on the run game. They haven't done it yet.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game, and it's a great matchup, and I don't think Kansas City's defense can stop the Miami offense, but I do think you see a much better Kansas City offense than you saw last week against the Denver Broncos. But again, when you win as much as they've won, and one of your best players comes out bemoaning the fact that this is new territory for us, outside of Kansas City, none of us want to hear it. Because we root for teams that have never won at the level you guys have won.
So quickly, can I make it personal?
Very
to you?
quickly,
Somebody who's king of New York, who's still king of New York radio, and they're all this media. You know there's a standard you hold your show to.
Yes.
If, as well as the ratings may look and whatever, if you know you're there or not. That's all Kelce's saying.
No, that's true.
We're
True, which is why the guy that put that stat on the screen is being fired after the show.
Get him out of here.
Well, because he embarrassed my good friend Greg.
What are we doing?
All right, time now. A little something we like to call a For Real or a Fugazi. All right, the Dallas Cowboys have the edge at quarterback in this Sunday's game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Is that for real or is that Fugazi?
It's for real.
Ooh.
It's simply because of health. Right? You talk about Jalen Hurts being gimpy the last 2 weeks. Dak Prescott, they're both playing at the same level. I don't think there's any kind of edge in that regard. But Dak seems healthy and more confident at this time and place. So I'm going to go give to Dak.
I'm going for real as well.
Yeah.
For all the reasons that you just mentioned, Dak is playing great ball. We know all those things, what he's done in the previous few weeks. It's for real.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be light years different, but I do think Dak Prescott, for this one particular game, due to the knee injury, and he's playing really good football, coming off a great game against the Rams, I think that is for real. All right, here we go, number 2. Tyreek Hill's chances of winning an MVP. Are they a for real or Fugazi?
I'm going to say for real. He's having a monster year.
Let's go.
Yeah, he gets a chance this Sunday to break the passing record in 8 games, right? And so when you talk about what he's doing thus far, he's being unstoppable. You said it time at time. How can a 5'10" dude with a bad haircut and an ugly mustache dominate the NFL? And he's doing it. Just pop on the tape. He's killing everybody.
Absolutely, this is for real.
Why'd you see the talk?
You gotta believe it. We gotta switch it up. We can't just make it a quarterback.
It's true.
I'm good.
It's true. I'm with you.
Award. But this game, this week, I know it's in Germany, but this game, these are the type of splash games or the flashy games. If he can get some get back against his former team, it has all the implications of, ooh, this is good, this is interesting to watch. You got to have some type of flair when you do it. And to add on to that, he's doing it in 16 games. Like, I know he's going to play 17 games and shatter it if it happens, but he's on track to get this done in 16 games. For all of you who are going to say he has an extra game.
If he's going to do it, you want him to do it in 16.
You do.
So that big mouths like me can't say, you got to put an asterisk next to it because he did it in an extra game. And I would say that. So I own that. Every now and then I do have a big mouth when it comes to things that make my Jets look bad. Okay, number 3. Buffalo Bills, of course, huge game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Josh Allen is going to outplay Joe Burrow on Sunday. A for real or Fugazi?
This is Fugazi. Come on, man. Joe Burrow's back. He's mobile. He's competent. The offense is pretty much booming right now. Not because of Jamar Chase and his catches, but you got T. Higgins coming back. You also got Joe Mixon into the fold. We talked about how he popped off the tape against the 49ers. And Joe flat out has given this team the big shot in the arm because they're putting the ball in his hand and just letting Joe do what Joe does. He's going to dominate on Sunday.
Look, Joe cool.
Joe cool.
This is Fugazi.
Oh!
I'm going to be really cool about it because I'm all about Joe Cool. He's the better quarterback. He's the most consistent quarterback. And when you look at these two teams, the Bengals just believe that they're better than this outfit.
Yeah.
Well, they were in a playoff game less than a year ago, and the Bills are playing with that on their minds, but their defense has taken a couple big hits, of course, with major injuries, most notably to their starting middle linebacker, Matt Milano. I got one more for you, okay?
Okay.
Leonard Fournette was a free agent signing a couple weeks ago by the Buffalo Bills. He put out a tweet yesterday that's causing a lot of attention to come his way, and it says there, Buffalo's colder than a penguin's ass. Is that for real or is that Fugazi?
Fugazi, Cleveland. Cleveland is a cold, cold place. Play in Cleveland at the back end of December when you got frost on your mustache.
Yeah.
I mean, they turn off the hot water if you beat them. I mean, this is a grimy place.
I think the question, though, Willie, is Buffalo colder than a Penguin's rear end? Not is it colder than Cleveland?
Well, I've never seen a Penguin's rear end. I've never touched it.
Well, we're going to play the game. This is for real.
I'm sorry.
This is for real. The fact that you've never seen the Penguins rear end, I've seen the Penguins rear end, and I've never seen it covered up with all the snow. I mean, we look at Buffalo, and they can't even leave the airport. They can't even get back to their cars. They're having to shovel.
Well, allow me to say
Well, Greg also lives in Minnesota.
Allow me to say this.
So, like,
It is for real. He lives in a pretty cold
Right,
town.
so he knows cold.
Yeah,
Like,
I have
more
lived
than
in
just one cold
Buffalo.
place.
I have lived in Cleveland. I have lived in Syracuse. Buffalo's cold.
Buffalo's cold.
Can't talk about a Penguin's rear end, but Buffalo is sure as heck cold. In August, it snows sometimes. All right, coming up, we got your mid-show headlines. Obviously, last night's game between the Titans and the Steelers. We got a lot more coming up on Dak and Jalen and the Cowboys and the Eagles. And, of course, Tyreek Hill in Germany. Will he go off on
buddy.
the Kansas City Chiefs? We'll get into that much more coming up right after this. Hi, welcome back to the Carton Show. Good morning to you. Of course, that's Greg Jennings right there, Super Bowl champion and Green Bay Packer, Hall of Famer, and Mr. Biggs to my left, Willie Colon, also a Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And great to have you here. Just real quick, of course, last night, Week 9 got started in the NFL, and once again, Willie's Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, let me whip it out for you there, Craigie.
Watch what you say to me on the show.
Yeah.
The towel. Thank
Yes.
God.
Oh, sorry.
They win 20-16 over the Tennessee Titans. Not pretty, but it doesn't matter. They are now 5-3, meaning extra pressure right now on the Cleveland Browns, on the Baltimore Ravens, and of course the Cincinnati Bengals. More on that a little bit later on in the show. Let's get to another headline, and that is the big NFC matchup: the Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. You know, this is a great rivalry anyway.
Yep.
But when both teams are really good and have legitimate Super Bowl aspirations, the game takes on another level. And of course, it's 4 o'clock on Fox from Philadelphia. Here's Dak Prescott talking about what it's like playing in Philly.
It's just a good atmosphere for football, honestly. I guess you can say, having grown up in the SEC, a lot of different venues and stadiums that just you can feel it. The time you get near the stadium, eat, sleep, breathe the game of football, the fans' excitement. When you walk into the Philadelphia Stadium, it's no different. It feels like some of those old Saturday nights. Fans are going to get loud. You got to make sure your communication is top notch, and then and then it's fun always getting a win up there.
Yeah, look, I get it. It's weird to me that you're going back to your Mississippi State games against Alabama, or Georgia, whatever it is. But he's also right. It's going to be a raucous crowd. There used to be back in the day a time when the NFL had banned all 4 o'clock games from Philadelphia because the fans were so unruly, right? And no joke. That is ridiculous. That's a true story. They weren't allowed to play 4 o'clock home games for a number of years. But obviously they're a little bit more civil than they used to be. But I love this, and I have no rooting interest in the game. I'm an AFC guy, and I'm a Jet guy.
Well, you're a Dak guy.
When these, and I happen to like Dak. I think Dak gets mistreated, and I hate the narrative about him. He's playing really good football. And as much as we're going to talk about the great run that the Eagles have had, and they have, with Jalen Hurts, you guys have made the point all week, even take Dak out of the equation for a second, you're not talking about Jalen Hurts at 100%. And if he can't run the ball, or he's worried about getting out of the pocket and taking a hit, while that's not the focus of their offense, it's still a big part of their offense.
Yeah, 100%. I think they have a lot of weapons. They just haven't exposed. You're talking about Dallas Goedert, who was a big tight end for them last year. He hasn't really showed up. He has done well, but not great. At times, when you look at DeAndre Swift, he's best suited in the backfield. And I know they put him in the slot and they put him in motion. He does different things. But when he's in the backfield, they look like a different offense. So what I'm excited about, and I know you played in a lot of big rivalry games, man, it's the crowd, man. For me, like when I used to play in Baltimore and hearing all the vulgarity.
You loved it, right?
I loved it, man, because it felt like you were playing in Thunderdome. You had Ray Lewis coming out with the dance. T. Suggs always had the mask. My beloved brother, Bart Scott, was always flicking off the crowd or flicking us off.
Right.
So that type of atmosphere, you live for that. And that's what we get to see Sunday against these two great teams. And some of the matchups we're not talking about is CeeDee Lamb versus Darius Slay. That's going to be a damn good matchup. And I'm also excited to see Micah Parsons try to get after this offensive line. So for me, this has all the bells and whistles, but it comes down to these two gentlemen.
Oh, listen, this is a playoff game. It's going to have a playoff
100%.
atmosphere.
Yeah.
The crowd will be great for all the fun we make about Philadelphia. They are awesome. That crowd will be great. You guys played there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it's like, especially, it's different when you come in and you're having a down year.
Yeah.
When you're playing for NFC East supremacy, when you're playing now to control the road to a Super Bowl, which I think the winner of this game takes the lead the pole position against the loser of this game, of course, and San Francisco. When that's at stake, I think you're going to get the best out of everybody, and this is a playoff atmosphere.
Yeah, it is. And just to speak to the crowd, like, we both played in Philly. And it's the one place
Some ugly
in
people
all
in
of
Philly,
football, and I've gone to Chicago, Soldier Field, all the things, where I've told my family, do not
Don't come.
Do not come. Don't
Same.
wear a jersey.
Yeah.
Like, my dad came to the playoff game. We showed the highlights yesterday. He came to the playoff game. Pops, don't wear the jersey. Don't bring any added attention to yourselves. That's what they're going into, and they are comfortable doing that. Obviously, Dak has thrived playing there and having success. But to your point, as players, you want to be involved in these types of games.
These are the moments because, listen, every game's special. You don't get a lot of them, right? Like in your entire career, how many games did you get to play in, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like 1,000.
No.
It's low hundreds, right? So this game means something, and that's where I think the great players shine in games like this. Now the question is, are the Eagles ready to go? Dallas comes in on a 2-game winning streak, having beaten the Chargers after the bad loss to San Francisco. They blow the Rams right out of the gate last week at home, and now they're in hostile territory. But I know everyone wants to look back on the game against San Francisco and say, well, that's the real Dak Prescott. You can't trust Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
You can't trust Mike McCarthy or Schottenheim or whatever it might be calling the plays. And I just don't see it that way. My expectation is that it's a tough game. Look, Philly's a really good team. And I don't think it's a shootout back and forth, 35-31. I think it does come down to, a couple plays here, a couple plays there. And I do think it's going to be a close game because both teams are really good. But I'm telling you, when you have a quarterback in Jalen Hurts that clearly does not have a good knee, and he doesn't want to talk about it, walking out of a press conference 2 days ago.
Because it doesn't matter. Bottom line,
Fair
he has
enough.
to go.
He's going to play, but it changes the nature of how you play. And I'll give you one play. The most maligned play in the NFL this year is the tushy-pushy play, right?
Yeah.
Which nobody can stop and nobody else can do. Well, all of a sudden, if you've got a quarterback with a bad knee and that play is so successful because of his lower body strength and getting his foot in the ground and pushing off and getting that yard, you can't put him in that spot now. So that's a little advantage to Dallas.
On top of that, you talk about what both of these quarterbacks are doing right now is being able to extend plays. You know how you got Dak running for first downs. Jalen Hurts is running for first downs, but we go back to that clip against the Redskins, and when you see him gimpy. So now you're like the quarterback talking about himself, like, listen, I got to make it all 4 quarters. I may be sitting in the pocket a little longer because I don't want to threaten the knee and the bone bruise. So for me, when I look at Jalen Hurts right now, how much is this knee going to hurt your game? Because we watched against the Jets. He was scrambling for his life, and then he was able to get out of certain situations. He looks like he's slower this week than previously.
So I just want to add one little note. Like, they're going into a bye after this game. So all of that may be true.
Yeah.
But Jalen Hurts, tush push, all of whatever, it's on the table. Because I got a week off. I got to give everything that I got. That's why he gets up from that press conference, because it's a non-factor for me.
I got to go.
Right now, I got to go. I can't use it as an excuse. It doesn't matter how I play and what is going on with my body physically. All that's expected of me is for me to be great, and that's what it's going to be required.
Not just that. You look at that schedule right there. Go full screen of that, guys, so the audience can really see it. Because after the bye week, they could lose 5 straight games. I'm not saying they're going to, but you're at Kansas City. You got the Bills. You got San Francisco, who will have righted the ship by then, most people think. Then you're on the road against Dallas. You got the first place Seattle Seahawks, and then it gets easy for the last 3 weeks. But the Eagles could have ruined their season by the time you get to Week 16, or give them credit because they are a very good team. If they get through that 5-week span, at 3-2 or 4-1, then those last 3 weeks almost guarantees them, first place and maybe even home field advantage. So this game is significant And what network is it on? I keep forgetting.
Fox!
Nice job on that. We get paid again this week. All right, headline number 2. Arguably, the AFC game of the week, of course, many people think it's Miami and Kansas City, rightfully so. But when you play at 9 o'clock in the morning, it's like you don't play at all. So it's got to be the Bengals and the Bills rematch of the AFC divisional game from a year ago. You got a healthy Joe Burrow.
Ooh.
You got a Bengal offense that's flying
Yes,
high
you do.
right
That's
now.
right.
But you also have a Bills team coming off a lot of no-huddle offense out of the gate.
Yep.
7 of their first 9 plays. Josh Allen making plays with his legs, finding open receivers, not focusing just on Diggs. And I'm convinced now that Buffalo, not that they got it from me, but took my advice on other people that were saying it, get out of that kid's head.
Yeah.
Let Josh Allen be Josh Allen, meaning he's going to take some chances. You're going to pull your hair out from time to time.
are.
He's going to leap over guys. He's going to dive. He's going to throw a pick once in a while. But he's going to give you high-quality quarterback play. And I honestly don't know how you predict the outcome of this game with any confidence at all.
And you can't because all the
Okay,
reasons-
I will. I think the – now, go ahead.
No, I'm saying you can't because everything you just mentioned, Josh Allen, man, he's a wild cowboy. But at the same time, you can't hurt him from being a ball player because what he does well is ball. But when he's hot, he's hot. When he's cold, he's doing dumb, bozo things on the field.
Yep.
What I'm really excited to see is my man Trey Hendricks go against Deion Dawkins. I'm going into the trenches.
There he goes.
One thing back in the day, the God rest his soul, John Madden, every Sunday would highlight the big ugly versus the other big ugly.
Yeah.
This is going to be a big matchup, so I'm excited to see that.
Now,
go.
there's one little sidebar to this game and the Kansas City-Miami game I do have to put out there, else I'm not doing my job. A lot of people think Kansas City rights the ship and they will beat Miami. Maybe they will. Obviously, I think Miami wins the game, but just play it out. Kansas City obviously can beat Miami.
Yes.
Maybe they do. The Buffalo Bills going to Cincinnati. The Bengals are favored in this game. They blew them out in the playoff game last year. So there's a lot of people that think the Bengals will beat Buffalo. That's a pretty popular opinion right now, right? If Cincinnati beats Buffalo, and if the Kansas City Chiefs wind up beating the Miami Dolphins, there's a little team out there that also has a game on Sunday, a Monday night rather, against the Chargers. Meaning, if the New York Jets wait on Sunday for the Chiefs to beat the Dolphins, and they wait on Sunday for the Bengals to beat the Bills. If they beat the Chargers, when we come in Tuesday morning,
Yes.
Who's in first place, my friend?
The New York Jets.
That's real, and you may have to live with it. I'm giving that to you right
You
now.
gotta find a way to make it about the Jets.
You know he's going to turn it
You
around.
gotta find a way.
I've done an hour and 8 minutes. I haven't said the Jets' name once.
That is fair.
Thank you.
That is
there
fair.
you go. All right, headline number 3. Speaking of the Miami Dolphins and their hopes of staying toe-to-toe with the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets, Tyreek Hill talked about facing his former team, the Kansas City Chiefs in Germany. Here's Tyreek Hill.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter where we play at. I mean, obviously, it would have been great to play in KC, but it really doesn't matter where we play at. You feel me? They're going to get this work wherever, though.
Oh, my goodness.
But y'all already used that. Bulletin board material.
He loves.
Give it to me, Tyreek. Give it to me, Cheetah.
They're going to get this work.
Yeah.
What does that mean, Greg Jones?
That means
It depends
doesn't
what time
matter.
of night.
It doesn't matter what you got, what you want to do to me. I'm gonna give it to you anyway. Any way you like it, I'm gonna provide. You feel me? You can take that however you want to take it.
Yeah, and he even acknowledged while
No
he was
pause.
saying it, your big smile, and he basically was like, I know that's going up on the bulletin
Yeah.
board,
Yeah.
but it don't matter what country we're in, because I'm going to be me.
Because you can't guard him, right?
Yeah.
Every time we look out, Tyreek is blowing the top off of defense. But also, talk about the genesis of him. Him leaving Kansas City was a simple factor. He wanted to be the number 1 option. He couldn't do it with Kelce in the lineup. So now that he's in Miami, he's balling. He's potentially an MVP candidate. Now he's saying, now I'm going to make you love me. I'm going to make you love me because I'm on the opposite side and you can't guard me.
These highlights, which I love watching, it also burns me because, like we said, 5'9" guy who's 5 yards open
Plays like he's
on
6'5".
every touchdown.
We look at Tyreek in these highlights, but look at the defenders.
Yeah.
They are running the fastest as they possibly can. I gotta tell you the story.
Go ahead.
So I remember when I was going into the league, getting drafted down in Florida training. And there was a guy by the name of Devin Hester. You're familiar with him.
Yeah, Chicago
we
Bears.
played a lot of games after we got done training. And there was one game we were playing where we're trying to chase each other with a little soccer ball, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
And Devin got the ball. And he hit the sideline. And I mean, it's myself. It's a bunch of guys down there. And we're all trying to chase him. And I kid you not, one after the other was like, pulling hamstrings and everything because
Burnt
the
out.
speed, we just couldn't match that speed. That's what you see with these defenders. And that's why Tyreek says, you're going to get this work. There's nothing you can do about it.
And here's the craziest thing. Like if you show those highlights again, either way, the guys chasing him for sure run 4.4, 4.5 40. They're among the fastest people on the planet, right? And he's still faster than everybody.
They practically stopped running. Like, you start to see the back of that jersey, and it's like, no.
This is not the worst when he throws up the peace sign, though.
Yeah,
like that's about
embarrassing,
like
right?
I'm gonna have to fight you after the game.
You know, it's crazy. Obviously, he's got some issues in his past that are well documented. But in moments like that, he's one of the most likable guys.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's $1 million smile. And he's not trying to be disrespectful, but, you know, when you're setting the records he's setting, which might be the greatest singular season in NFL history for a wide receiver, how do you not act like that?
Yeah, and he's saying all of what every receiver, any and every player would love to say, but we're taught, don't say that, don't give any bulletin board material. Well, he can't help it.
Well, he's also a tough cookie. Remember, he was dealing with a hip last week.
Allegedly.
Right. But then he came out and had a performance.
Now, let me ask you a quick question. If Miami does what I think they're going to do and beat Kansas City, whether it's close or not, it's irrelevant. That'll be the second consecutive loss for Kansas City. They got a bye week, and they come out of the bye week. Wow, tough game out of the gate against the Eagles, right? Yeah. Meaning it's on the table where they very well could do something they've never done in the Mahomes era, and that's those 3 consecutive games. To be fair, after that, Raiders win, Green Bay win, New England again, Raiders again. So there's a bunch of wins easily on their schedule. So I'm not going to fret over it, but it's a fair question to ask. If their defense gets exposed at some level against Miami, they go into the bye week. Coming out of the bye week, that's probably the biggest regular season game they've played in a number of years because now there's blood in the water, and now people are now publicly asking the question, are we watching the end of a dynasty?
Yeah, but at the same time, that's why you have to listen to Travis Kelce when he's coming out saying what he's saying, because he's behind the curtain. He's looking at what he used to have and what they used to do and the standard they set compared to what they're doing right now. And something's not right. And we talked about the drops, not having accountability, not just being able to pop off the tape from an offensive standpoint. We got to understand, this was an offense at one point, no matter how much they were down, whether it was 20 points, 18 points, they can go down the field, bang, 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 and you'll be done. The game is over. They're not showing you that type of output. So right now, if you look at Travis Kelce, and he put himself in the fire too. He goes, listen, I'm not playing good. Patrick's not playing great. And one of the things we missed in that interview, he's talking about trust. Patrick Mahomes doesn't trust that wide receiving core.
Yeah.
There's only one guy he trusts. So now you're talking about trust issues within the offense, which messes everything. And me and Grace played on it. When you don't trust a guy who's either next to you or you have to depend on, that's a ripple effect. So schematically, they're struggling.
And they've got a bunch of guys who just haven't lived up to the promise you thought they would, namely Kadarius Toney, who we thought this would be the year finally, but there's never been a year for him to break out. Real quick before we take a break, fourth and football for you. We've done an hour plus here, and we really haven't mentioned it all. One of the best teams in all football, not Geno Smith in Seattle, but who they're going against. The Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson now. Seattle stole a victory last week from the Cleveland Browns. Some questionable play calling late, throwing the ball in 3rd and 3, and not having Kareem Hunt run the ball to really melt out the clock and win the game. But they're going up against a Baltimore Ravens squad whose offense seems to be now clicking on all cylinders. You can argue that Odell Beckham's not been a big part of it, but when it's a team-organized game and everyone is bought into, it's about the team. It doesn't matter what his specific numbers are. They're now scoring 30 points at a clip. And the Baltimore Ravens, it's like, hey, they're not Kansas City, they're not Miami, but they're as good as anybody.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on head. From a team aspect, they're balling. But on one side of the ball is the defense. You're talking about being second in total defense. They're not even a blitzing at a light clip. I think when you talk about the AFC North, it's about Blitzburg and Pittsburgh and how they get after it. What they're doing, they're simply getting home with their front four.
They are.
And that's what happens, man. When you allow that back in the cover, but when that front four is able to be dominant, compress the pocket and get it. Because Geno's not a mobile quarterback. Yeah, he can scramble, he can use things with his legs, but he's not a Lamar Jackson who's a legit dual threat. So this front four for the Ravens is a problem. Can they defeat that? Can Geno overcome that? We'll see.
Yeah, they get after the quarterback. They're the best, highest sack team in the league when you look at the Baltimore Ravens. But when I look at this game, when I look at what Seattle hasn't been able to do in the second half of games these last few weeks, they've struggled. The Baltimore Ravens, they actually get it going. This is a team that is predicated on getting up and getting a lead, and then just literally
leaning on you,
physically wearing you down. And if that happens, there is no chance here for the Seattle Seahawks to do what they did last week and sneak away with the win.
Look, you're also having a disappointing year by DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, to be fair. DK Metcalf thus far only has 27 catches and only a couple of touchdowns. And you went into the season saying, well, from a wide receiver standpoint, they've got two of the best wide receivers in football and one of the best duos in football, and it hasn't been there. While Kenny Walker's had a very good year and will certainly break 1,000 yards this year in his second year, they are not the same team they were a year ago. So it's interesting to see where Seattle is. They got a gift win last week against the Browns, but the Ravens are a whole different ballgame.
Yes, they are.
It's in Baltimore.
Yeah.
They're just under a touchdown favorite, and I see no reason, as much as you respect Bobby Wagner and some of the players on that Seattle defense, Baltimore should light them up.
Oh, not only light them up. Remember what happened to the Lions? They crawled out the building.
That's right.
Yeah, Seattle's going to get cooked up in that building. They won't have to
and
stop.
Lamar Jackson's going to be right back on the top of the MVP list after another big win at home, this time against the Seattle Seahawks. We got much more coming your way, including the Bills and the Bengals. How similar are they, and what does Stefon Diggs think about this budding rivalry? We'll get into all that and so much more right after this. Obviously, big AFC matchup coming up this weekend. It's Stefon Diggs, Josh Allen, and the Bills against Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, and the Bengals. And Stefon Diggs said a lot about the rivalry and how these two teams stack up. Here's Stefon Diggs.
They're a great football team. They've had success, especially they got a way of getting going throughout the season. Sometimes they'll have a slow start, but you can kind of bet your money that they'll get rolling. They're a good football team all around. Remind us a lot of ourselves, like as far as like offense and defensive wise. It's going to come down to executing.
All right, Greg, so how much does last year's playoff loss play a role mentally, emotionally for the Bills in this game in Cincinnati?
Oh, they're talking about it all throughout their building. Everybody remembers it. You don't forget a beating like that. You don't forget that. If you're a head coach, if you're Sean McDermott, that's all you're preaching to your guys. But you also understand we're a different team than last year.
Okay.
We got a completely different outlook and outfit this year. But this Bengals team, this is one of the scariest teams. If you are looking to play them at this point with a healthy Joe Burrow,
bad week.
It really is. You have to come with your A game. You can't tiptoe around it. It is what it is. This team is going to punch you in the mouth because they're playing behind a quarterback that believes he's the best in the game. That openly will let you know it doesn't matter what our record is and what our record was. We're going to right the ship, and I'm going to be a reason why. That's why everything is on the table right now for the Cincinnati Bengals, but also everything is on the table if you're looking at the Buffalo Bills and their season.
To me, I would rather play a good team off a huge win than play a good team off an embarrassing loss.
Why?
Because I know what human nature is. If you get embarrassed, Kansas City, for example, against Denver, the week of practice after that is probably the best week of practice
more
to have
attention
all
to
year.
detail, all the
because you're ticked off, you got embarrassed, you hear the talk shows, you read the columnists, people are putting you down and questioning, is the dynasty over, that kind of stuff. When you're Cincinnati, and you go to San Francisco and you embarrass San Francisco and put a 31 burger on them, the week of practice after that is a lot different than if you lost going into a huge conference matchup and battle against the team you played in the playoffs last year. So I know it's a little thing, but I look for those little things. So the Bills coming off the embarrassment of being blown out by them in their building in the playoffs. Plus, you have people still questioning, what are the Bills this year? Is Josh Allen any good? And meanwhile, the Bengals came back home like conquerors, having beaten San Francisco. I think all of that actually plays in to the Bills' favor.
Yeah, but this is why I look at the Buffalo Bills, and you got to lean on their side, because when they have a big matchup, go to the Miami game when they was knuckle and knuckle against another Super Bowl contender, they showed up and showed out. So I think they look at Joe Burrow, they look at this team, they understand they're motivated, and they're feeling good, and they're feeling groovy. But at the same time, the Buffalo Bills show up when there's another big dog in the room. So I'm not worried about Buffalo. It's just a matter of Joe Burrow in this outfit really coming into town and saying, hey, what we've done this far isn't a fluke. we're legit.
Yeah, I also thought it was interesting that the Bills acquired Leonard Fournette for the rest of the way because James Cook, I think, has done a really good job.
He's averaging 4.8 a pop.
Yeah, so I'm not sure why they thought Leonard Fournette was a needed piece to make a run, deep into the AFC playoffs. But I like Buffalo in this game. And that's not a knock on Cincinnati. They're at home. Their offense is back. They're playing great. Would not be surprised, obviously, if you get another great performance by them, especially because the Bills' defense is not 100%. Haven't seen Von Miller pop up on tape, like you said.
Yeah, he's not even on a pitch count.
Right, this entire year. But something tells me, and I'm a human nature guy,
What does that exactly mean?
What that means is, we may view you guys as robots because you have helmets on and pads, and we don't view you as regular human beings.
For the people?
I speak for all the people.
He always speaks for the people.
There's a disconnect between players and people because we don't view you as guys that go to the bathroom the way we go to the bathroom and all the other stuff that comes with being a human being. There you go. Thank you, my man. Was the water cold? It is for me sometimes. That being said, there is the reality of what is being said about you, how you played in your last game, playoff revenge, and all the things I just talked about. All those little intangible things that nobody else pays attention to, I do. There's a slight lean because of it towards Buffalo, and here's why. If the Bengals win this game, it's like a coronation that they're legitimately and officially all the way back, right? And now you're 5-3, and now you've won, 4 consecutive games, and all of a sudden the rest of the AFC North's like, they're for real. They just beat San Fran on the road. They came back and blow out a Buffalo Bills team. But the flip side is important to consider, and that is people don't know what the Bills are. Every week it's Josh Allen did this, then it's, oh my God, I can't believe he did that. Then it's Stephon Diggs had a great game, then it's why is he complaining about targets, right? So there's still a question mark. I think you rally around that. I think Josh Allen has a great game on Sunday. And again, I think it's close. I respect the Cincinnati Bengals and the fact that they have gotten a 4-3 and didn't collapse after a 1-3 start. But I'm leaning towards the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, and I'm against you. I'm leaning towards the Cincinnati Bengals because at the end of the day, it's going to come down to adjustments late in the game. Because I think we all are in agreement. We assume that it's going to be a shootout, right? And Lou Anarumo, what he's been able to do with this defense and their ability to take the ball away with interceptions. They lead the National Football League in interceptions. That is not by happenstance. And when you look across the field, and you see a guy like Josh Allen, a guy who I love, he's going to give you a chance. He's going to give you an opportunity because every week that's what he does because that's the way he plays.
Yep.
We listen to Tom Brady talking to him about mitigating the risks. Josh Allen doesn't play that way.
But I think that's when he's at his best, too. And I think that's the issue.
Of course.
He's going to give the Bengals defense a couple chances, but I think playing the way he plays football gives Buffalo their best chance to win. I'm actually excited to watch that game. And, I will say this. One of the great things about this week is how the great games are spread out. Right? I don't like it, but 9 a.m. game, Chiefs-Dolphins, 1 o'clock game, you've got Bengals and Bills, 4 o'clock game on Fox, you've got Eagles and Cowboys, Monday night, I get my Jets. So it's really spread out where there's no reason to get off the couch from 9 a.m. to midnight Sunday afternoon. Now, it is time for Lil Wayne's favorite segment on the show.
Lil Wayne!
And he told me that himself.
He did.
It's Greg Jennings putting the team on his back.
Put the team on my back. Dog, he put the team on his back.
Josh Allen, let's go. When it's my segment, you're not going to tell me what I can and cannot do.
Dog, let's go inside the mind of a Greg Jennings.
All right, team on his back.
Let's go, Greg!
Here we go. So the beauty of it is I give Greg the team of the game. Greg picks the one guy, and he tries to make it not the obvious guy. That's going to have to put the team on his back, so I'm looking forward to that. Are you ready to go?
I am ready. Can you pass me the football, please?
Yeah,
Oh, that's
football
what it
is
is.
yours.
Yeah,
Here we
okay.
go. All right, game number 1. Kansas City Chiefs, Miami Dolphins. Who in that game needs to put the team on his back?
Well, Craig, you said not to pick the obvious guy.
Yes,
but at
thank
this
you.
stage in the season, we know who the guys that put the team on their back are. So I'm just going to tell you and reemphasize, it's Tyreek Hill. Did we not hear what he said in this press conference? Like, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to get this work. And this is why, when you look at the numbers with Tyreek Hill, when he was with the Chiefs and now that he's with the Miami Dolphins, his targets are increased. His receiving yards per game, like per reception, like all of his stats have improved. And why is that? Because he is that guy. He has always put the team on his back, and it's going to be no different in Germany. Going against a team of foe, we all want this opportunity when you're outed by a team. It doesn't matter how you are dispatched from that position. When you got a chance to go back and give them a dose of what they're missing, you do it. And that's what Tyreek is going to do. So Tyreek Hill, go put the team on your back, though.
Dog. He put the team on his back.
The cheetah.
You picked the league.
Absolutely. I'm all about the 2K. Go get it.
All right, let's move on from there. Seahawks and Ravens. Big game we just talked about a few moments ago. Who needs to put the team on his back, though?
Yeah, I'm going with the quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going
Lamar
with the obvious
Jackson.
again. I'm going to tell you why I'm going with Lamar Jackson, because we talk about
Starting to
him
say
wanting to
predictable,
throw
Greg.
the ball this year with Todd Monken at his offensive coordinator position. Lamar Jackson has answered the bell. It doesn't look like what he wants it to look like, but he has looked a heck of a lot better. His completion percentage, the highest in his career. He's over 70% completion percentage when you look at what he's been able to do. And in this particular game against the Seattle Seahawks, I truly believe it's going to come down to Lamar Jackson being who we've always seen him be. And that's a guy that gets out the pocket and beats you with his legs. Lamar Jackson's going to find a way to will his team to get a win, and that's what he's been doing all season long, including that defense that you talk about is so good. But Lamar Jackson, go put the team on your back.
Lamar Jackson,
Dog.
70%.
He put the team on his back.
There you go. Completion percentage just under 1,800 yards, 9 touchdowns. They've had back-to-back games where that offense was legitimately unstoppable. All right, what we're going to do for the Eagles and Cowboys, I'm going to split them up.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to let you pick one Eagle and then one Cowboy. We'll do individual, okay? So starting off, that's the 4 o'clock game on Fox. Huge game. Winner of this game now has the front seat to home field advantage. So let's start with the home team. Greg Jennings, what Philadelphia Eagle has to put the team on his back, though?
Don't say Jalen Hurts, dog.
I'm not going to say Jalen Hurts.
Don't say Jalen Hurts.
I won't say Jalen Hurts.
Who do you got?
But A.J. Brown.
Oh,
It's self-explanatory. Take a look at the numbers. They don't lie. He's been putting the team on his back. He hits all these targets. Like, this is A.J. Brown versus man coverage. And I'm going to tell you why this is so important.
Go.
Because when you play against a team that likes to play man coverage, if you look at the bottom third of that it says the Cowboys, well, it's not the bottom third anymore, but in the graphic numbers part, the Cowboys play 41% man coverage. This is what I do if I'm A.J. Brown. Like, Jalen Hurts, find me. I'm going to raise my hand when I get in the huddle. I'm going to give you that look, and that means get me the ball. Point blank, when they are successful, it doesn't matter who you have on him. Deron Bland, Stephon Gilmore. I love these guys, but not this week because Jalen Hurts has a guy that it doesn't matter what you do to him, he's going to put the team on his back, though.
Okay.
Dog. He put the team on his back.
All right, that's the Philly side of things. As I said, I'm going to let you pick one from each team. Dallas Cowboys now. Who has to put the team on his back?
Don't say Dak. Don't say Dak.
I'm not going to say Dak. Because if I said A.J. Brown, in order for them to win, if you're Dallas, the guys that's guarding A.J. Brown, you better try to put the team on your back. So I'm going with Deron Bland and Stephon Gilmore. Look, they've impacted their games. When you look at this season, their interceptions, they combined have 6 interceptions. Obviously, Bland is, when he gets a pick, it's going the other way. This is what they do. The front end gets the rush, and the back end completes the task. They either intercept the ball, get PBUs. This is why the Dallas Cowboys have had so much success this season, because even losing Trayvon Diggs, you've had these two men step up to the plate and answer the call. None more importantly than Deron Bland. If A.J. Brown is able to go off, you're in trouble. If Deron Bland and Stephon Gilmore puts the team on their back, Dallas Cowboys win.
Deron Bland.
He put the team on his back.
There you go. All right. We got time for one more here. It's the Bills-Bengals game. Obviously, the best 1 o'clock game there is on Sunday. Who has to put the team
Is this
on his back?
Can I predict this one?
You can predict this.
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon. Bengals.
Let's go.
See, I knew it.
It's Joe Mixon.
I knew he was gonna say Joe
Come on,
Mixon.
Look, and it's the 8 o'clock game. I didn't want to.
Oh, Sunday night. I apologize.
It's okay.
My
It's
bad.
okay. We got a lot of great games. None more important than the one I just talked about on Fox.
Yeah.
But it's all good. Look, when you look at Joe Mixon, last week he got a little taste.
Yeah.
It was a little taste. His first big game of the season. They rushed for over 100 yards. He in particularly had his best output. Like when you look at this offense, you're caught up in the glitz and the glam of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. I am too. I'm a receiver. You know how I feel about it. But in order for this team to go deep into this season with wins, stacking them the way that we saw them do last season, and put the team on their back, that has to be Joe Mixon. You gotta implement your running game. We talked about it, Big Willie. He was coming out being shot out about a cannon. He's going to do it again against the Buffalo Bills defense that is without their best defender for the remainder of the season. That's Matt Milano. You know how I feel about Matt Milano. But Joe Mixon, go put the team on your back, my guy.
Dog, he put the team on his back.
So I can make sure I got this right. Joe Mixon, A.J. Brown, Lamar Jackson, Tyreek Hill. It's like a Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
There you go. You're ready.
Absolutely.
All right, coming up,
A lot of rain.
we got first in football. The Steelers, of course, win last night against the Titans 20-16. They get to 5-3. Put that towel down, kid. They are now possibly legitimate playoff contenders. And we have one of the most obnoxious and knife in the back birthday wishes in the history of the NFL. We will explain right after this.
In the back.
That's Greg Jennings. That's Willie Colon. You are whoever you are.
Yes, you are.
And I got to tell you a quick story before we get to first in football, right? To show you that, for those of us that are regular people, NARPs, non-athletic regular people that never played professional football, sometimes once in a while, athletes get treated like we do too.
Yeah.
So the Vegas Raiders fire their coach, they fire their general manager, and oh, by the way, the story that gets lost in the shuffle is that they also bench their $75 million quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, for some kid named O'Connell we never heard of, right?
Hey, let's go.
But here's the good news. Yes, Jimmy Garoppolo, we just benched your ass, so you're not going to play for us, but we want to wish you a happy birthday.
Oh, Peggy.
And the Raiders puts out a happy birthday social media post.
Man.
2 days after they benched the guy for an unnamed, unheralded kid named O'Connell. That is dysfunction at its very best. But Jimmy G, of course, will laugh all the way to the bank. But have you guys ever experienced anything like that?
No, it's petty. It feels like you don't want me to be there. I mean, it's one thing to bench me.
Hey, you suck. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
I
though.
mean, they're
Go get a
acknowledging
cupcake.
it's his birthday. We got a bench for you. Here, take it.
Oh, man. It's rough.
The greatest gift he ever got, an actual bench.
Oh,
right?
man.
I was once begged to go to my company's holiday party for Christmas shortly after 9/11 attacks here in New York City. So, of course, I went to the party. And then the next day, which was Christmas Eve, they go, "We're not renewing you, kid."
Just like that?
Just like that. Demanded I go to the holiday party. And then the next day, they were like, "You can."
look at you now. You're on TV.
Look
You're
at
doing
me
great.
now. That's right. All right, time now for first and football. Last night it wasn't pretty, but let's be honest, it never is. With Kenny Pickett and George Pickens. And is that Deontay Johnson
Yeah, it is.
actually scoring a touchdown for the first time since 2021? Yes, it is. Steelers win 20-16. They are now 5-3. But I want to show you a couple of highlights real quick.
Please do.
Of why this is a bad football team and why Mike Tomlin deserves so much credit because he overcomes, average at best play. I'm going to start you with George Pickens. 2 catches last night, -1 yards. Why? Because trailing late in the third quarter, 3rd and goal, 3rd and 3 inside, the 15-yard line. Kenny Pickett finds a wide open George Pickens, right foot down, left foot. You know what? I'm a 1-foot kind of guy, so I'm not going to take the time to toe tap or drag. It was called a touchdown. It got reviewed. Now, this could have been a real significant play towards the outcome of the game because they don't take the lead. They wind up kicking on 4th down, so they tied the game instead of taking the lead. That one was on George Pickens. Now let me give you Kenny Pickett. 2 plays from Kenny Pickett. One is a pass on the first drive of the game to Deontay Johnson. Little dig route. But first, I'm going to show you overthrowing George Pickens here on, what do you call that, a drag route?
A little drag
route. Little drag route. I mean, dude's wide open.
That's easy.
The other cornerback's got his back to the play. Easy 20, 30-yard gain, if not taking it to the house. And that's on Pickett. That's on Pickett right there. And then, to start the game off, looking to get a first down, here's Kenny Pickett overthrowing Deontay Johnson, and Deontay Johnson making a business decision.
Yes,
I'm not raising my hands above my head and exposing my rib cage
he just came back
to
from
somebody
injury.
hitting me.
Yeah, he just came back from injury.
All of that is a problem, and why I keep saying I credit the Steelers with winning. You guys know I love Mike Tomlin. My wife thinks he's hot. That being said, that's why they're not a very good team, but they're the best at winning ugly.
It's not about being the best team. It's about being a team that wins, and they're 5-3, led by their defense flat out. You talking about they had 4 sacks. Cameron Haywood came back in the game. He was a big factor against the run game. What's interesting about the Titans, man, outside of Derrick Henry, that one touchdown Derrick Henry had, he didn't do nothing much for the rest of the game.
Right.
They do have a quarterback in Will Levis. I think the kid is solid, man. He had an opportunity to win at the end of the game. But when you talk about the Steelers as a whole, man, what they're doing right now, they're finding a way to win. Jalen Warren is probably the best player, I think, offensively outside of George Pickens. And Kenny Pickett, there's something with that receiving core, because you go back to that Jags game, and I got to say
Something wrong.
Something wrong,
Yeah.
yes, excuse me. There's something wrong with this offense, because going to get that opening drive against the Jags, the drop, the sack, the drop. There's a disconnect between him and his receiving core that in week 9, it shouldn't be happening right now, and it's popping up.
Yeah, but I will say this, that's one of those games where even if you're not a great offensive team, but you know how to win games, that was the game last night. You had to win.
Yes. Yep.
The Titans are essentially done. And I don't say that, to be a jackass.
Yeah.
They're on a backup quarterback, a rookie quarterback. They've essentially waved the white flag. I know Tannehill got hurt. They don't believe in Malik, so this is going to be their future at quarterback. This is a team you have to beat if you think you're a legitimate playoff team. You don't have to win pretty, but there's a problem. That offense just isn't right. And when you get deeper into the season, and now you're playing better teams, especially when you consider who's in the AFC North, that's going to be unacceptable. I'll give you one stat, though, that I do think we should acknowledge. You guys have talked a lot on the show about how good the Steelers defense is.
Yes.
That's the 4th consecutive game that the Steelers have held their opponent to 20 points or less. That's winning football.
Yeah, and they did that without Minkah Fitzpatrick on the back end, like one of their best players on defense. But this is, you're right, this is who the Steelers are. They're a defense-first team. They run the ball, which they ran the ball a lot better last night, which gave them an opportunity to win.
And Najee Harris looks like all of a sudden he's back.
Yeah,
right?
he's playing with a little bit of fire up under his
that
rear.
touchdown run on the opening drive. He had a little burst up the middle there, which we didn't see in the first couple
But
weeks.
you speak of that opening drive. That essentially wins them this game.
Yeah.
Like, to start that way, to take the ball off the coin toss and then say we're going to go and score and actually do it, that's huge when you have a defense that you're asking to be great every single week, night in and night out.
Let's get to the NFC matchup of the week. Of course, it's the Eagles, it's the Cowboys, it's the Philadelphia team, it's the Dallas team, it's Texas, it's Pennsylvania, it's Jerry, it's Jeff, it's Dak, it's Jalen, and it's DeMarcus Lawrence talking about facing the Eagles, and he said if we want to solidify ourselves and say who we are and beat our chest, we got to come out with a win. Here's the reality of the outcome of this game. Whoever wins this game is now in the driver's seat, controlling their own destiny for not just a division title, but as the home field advantage #1 seed.
They're in what seat?
The driver's seat.
No, you got to do it. Okay, there we go. We get in.
Yeah. Woo, woo, woo. Again, here we go.
Right.
But it's real. So, again, I don't care who wins the game. The winner's in total control.
Yeah, for me, there's a lot of talk about DeMarcus Lawrence and his defense really coming to show up. And I know Michael Parsons is coming home. He's a Harrisburg native. He's going to Philly. He grew up an Eagles fan. But there's one guy on the Eagles defense that's really popping on the tape for me. His name is Josh Sweat.
Go.
The guy is an absolute stud. There's a lot of talk about Hassan Reddick, but this young man right here is balling. He has the most pressures. I think he's 40, has 44 pressures. That's big. 5.5 sacks, and pressures overall. He's 4th in the NFL. And we talk a lot about what Chris Jones for the Kansas City Chiefs does well.
Yeah.
In the fourth quarter, he's a monster.
Take over.
Well, this guy right here is a monster, too. You're talking about being able to collapse the pocket. He wins the one-on-ones. He's a dominator. So if you're watching this game and you hear Josh Sweat, just understand Willie told you first. The guy's a dog.
Yeah, Hassan Reddick gets a lot of the attention, but this guy's an he's like Bryce Huff on the Jets.
Yeah.
Dude knows how to get to the quarterback,
busy,
and he's not a household name yet. Yeah, this game, there's so much intrigue with this game. The best part is that they're both really good. Yeah, that doesn't always happen. But I'd also tell you that, the quarterback that has, not even close, the most success against the Philadelphia Eagles historically is Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
3 consecutive wins, 7 out of the last 8, and 8 out of the 11 times he's played against the Eagles, he's beaten them. Now, not just because of him. Obviously, he's been on some very good teams, and there were some bad Eagle teams, to be fair, going back about 3 or 4 years. But it says that he's going to go into Philly, and it ain't going to bother him. As loud as the crowd is, he's heard it already. He's comfortable playing in Lincoln Financial Field. And my gut tells me you're not going to get the Dak we got against San Francisco. And I can't tell you you're going to get the Dak we got against the Rams last week, but I do think you get very competent play out of the most embattled quarterback in the league.
Yeah, I'm confident with that notion because of what he's doing with the football and peppering it around. We talked about him lighting up CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is now happy, right? The squeaky wheel gets the oil. But on top of that, Brandon Cooks had a touchdown. You talk about Ferguson. Now you have Tony Pollard coming alive. So everybody in this offense that we thought was going to be a factor in the beginning of the season, they now have arrived. So that's what you want going into this game.
Yeah, for me, I don't care about all the other pieces. CeeDee Lamb.
That's right.
Dak Prescott. This is why Dak Prescott can go into this game with even more confidence. Obviously, he's played well against this team. He understands what they are and who they are, and he understands how to attack them. But when you got a guy that you can look out to your left or your right and say, I'm coming to you, and you know he's going to get open and you know he's going to do something with it, it changes your approach. And that is what we saw, you talk about last week with CeeDee Lamb. The Philadelphia Eagles have that guy or a couple of those guys, and obviously A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Well, CeeDee Lamb is like, I'm one of them guys too, so look out for CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, it's an amazing matchup, and I think one of the storylines that still has to be reiterated, as much as you guys have always said, if you're on the field, you're not hurt, is the knee injury, the bone bruise that Jalen Hurts has. Bone bruises don't just go away. You can mask it all you want. You can try to rest it all you want. But bone bruises are real. And as you guys have described, you could shoot it up, and you may have to. But you can't take away the pain.
Man, I had it pretty much my last year with the Jets, man. And what's bad about the bone bruise, you can feel good in warm-ups. You can mask it up, tape it up, whatever you do, kind of put it in a position where you can be efficient with it. It's always that ouch where you want to make an athletic play, like we saw Jalen Hurts do on the sideline, trying to scamper out of bounds, slow down, and that's where the ouch comes. And then you're like, oh, man, it's back to feeling like how it felt when I was in the bed.
So when they needed you to make that athletic play, what did that look like?
Oh, well, we scored. And so that's
First off, have you ever seen an offensive lineman make an athletic play?
You ever seen us pull?
Please. I mean, running to the Hong Kong buffet, maybe. But on a football field, oh, you're such an athlete. Look at me. Look at me.
You say that. Put your face in that. Come in that cage with us.
No, thank you. We got much more coming your way. We are 100 days away from the Super Bowl. So we're going to go Ben Franklin style on you, and we're going to keep it a buck. Right after this, tons of NFL still to do in the final half hour. All right, welcome back to the Carton Show. Is there anything better than a cocky, arrogant ball player who doesn't hide from his cockiness or arrogance? James Harden is now a Clipper. He makes his Clippers debut coming up in a couple days at Madison Square Garden against my beloved New York Knicks. And for all the talk in the NFL about, oh, he's a system quarterback, oh, he's a system this, James Harden put it to rest. Is he a system player or is he something else? Here's Mr. Arrogance himself, James Harden. Play the tape, boys.
Like, I think the game, and I'm a creator on the court. You know what I mean? So if I got a voice to where I can, hey, coach, I see this. You know, what you think about this? Then it's like, oh, okay. Like somebody that trusts me, that believes in me, that understands me, that I'm just not I'm not a system player. I am a system.
I'm not a system player. I'm a system.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell that means. But that's James Harden, who, by the way, is in great shape. And the Clippers can surely use him. And he starts off with a loss, of course, in a couple nights against my beloved New York Knicks at the Garden, where I'm going to be Wednesday for Wembanyama's first visit to Madison Square Garden. Greg Jennings, you want to come?
I do.
Can't invite you, sorry.
look at that.
Sorry about that. All right, it is 100 days away from the Super Bowl. So to celebrate the 100 days away from the Super Bowl, we're going to do a little segment here called Keeping It 100. Or depending on where you're from,
look at you, Craig.
Keeping It a Buck, or Rocking the Ben Franklins. That's me as Ben Franklin, of course. I used to have hundreds, not anymore. All right, here we go. Willie, you'll start us off. Are you ready to go?
Let's rock.
All right, let's keep it 100 right now. Which unit is going to dominate on Sunday? The Eagles' offensive line or the Cowboys' defensive line? And make sure to keep it 100.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it 100. It has to be the Cowboys' defensive line. You talk about Michael Parsons coming home, as I just mentioned. This is home territory. He has to be that impact player. DeMarcus Lawrence has already put himself out there. They have to be the more dominant outfit. But overall, man, this defensive line hasn't had yet that kind of breakout game, right? Where they pretty much pop up off the tape. Micah getting sacks. They're stuffing runs. They're getting after the quarterback. You got a gimpy quarterback bleeding right now. There's blood in the water. If you're the Dallas Cowboys defense, show up and show out. Bottom line, let's keep it 100.
Craig, you're keeping it a buck.
I'm going to keep it a buck, man. This is the Eagles' offensive line. Like, this is the best offensive line in football. And so when you look at Jason Kelce, the leader of that offensive line, the center, and then Lane Johnson and company, like they understand what's up in front of them. They are not going to allow their quarterback, who we've talked at great lengths, that is injured right now, to get his jersey dirtied up by this defensive line. They can't afford it. They're going to step up to the plate and keep their guy clean.
All right, let's go to number 2, and that is which contract is worse? The $8 million that the New York Jets are giving Dalvin Cook, he has a combined 114 yards thus far this season, or the $15 million that the Baltimore Ravens have given Odell Beckham Jr. He has 162 yards this year, and neither one of these guys has scored a single touchdown. Keep it a hundo.
I'm going to keep it 100. I think it's Dalvin Cook. Bottom line, man, this guy is used to getting 20 touches a game. That's not happening. He's only had 41 carries for 114 yards. He's not the guy who we thought he is, right? And right now, this guy was a 1,000-yard running back.
4 straight years.
4 straight years. A Pro Bowler, man. Like, we were believed as Jets fans that along with Breece Hall, he is going to be a thunder and lightning situation.
Right.
Bang, bang coming through the backfield. It hasn't happened, man. And a part of me feels like it's not really his fault. It's really Nathaniel Hackett. They can't find a way for him to be successful in that offense, and they should have traded him.
I will say this, it does seem a lot like the few plays he gets, it's kind of obvious he's going to get the ball.
Yep.
And that offensive line also isn't very good.
So, and I'm going to keep it 100. You said at the end of yours, it's not really his fault. Well, Odell Beckham Jr., it is your fault. Like, you haven't been available, and when you are available, you're just not productive. Like, and there's no other way to slice it. Like, you're getting $15 million. I'm all about it. Get your money. But give me something for it. Like, he's not providing them with anything.
He's had one game with more than 3 catches this year. One game, and that was against the Lions.
And moving forward, it just doesn't look like they even truly need him.
Ooh. Talk that thing, Drake.
There you go. All right, let me go to number 3. Which team currently on the outside looking in for a playoff spot has a better chance of making the playoffs? Is it the 4-3 Cincinnati Bengals, or is it the 4-3 New York Jets? And make sure you keep it 100.
I'm going to keep it a buck. It's the Bengals, all right? And I'm sorry. Listen, Joe Burrow has arrived. This offense looks amazing. We talk about Joe Mixon and nauseum. They have an offense and they have a defense that's playing really well, too. The problem with the New York Jets is we know what they are defensively, but who are they offensively?
Doesn't matter. They're the Chicago Bears of 85 and 86 defensively. That's right. I'm keeping it a buck.
I'm going to keep it a buck, too, really quick. It is the Jets that don't have the opportunity to make the playoffs.
Oh. What do you want?
I mean, you want me to say everything that he just said?
Keep it a buck.
Yeah,
We're trying to keep it a buck.
I'm going to get you pregnant.
So the paint.
I don't want to say that. All right. All right. Next one for you.
Get you pregnant.
All right. Who's going to win a title first? Will it be Dak Prescott or will it be James Harden? Who gets the ring first? Keep it a buck.
I'm going to keep it a buck. I'm going to say Dak. James Harden's time has passed. He's been on multiple teams. Nothing has passed. Nothing has come from it. I think Dak right now, if he continues to play the way he plays, you got to understand, eventually when he gets into the playoffs and maybe he has to see the 49ers again, he's going to get the third time. Third time's a charm. So I believe in Dak, man.
I'm going to keep it a buck. Neither one. Like, James Harden thinks that he is the system with all that talent on that team, the Clippers and Dak Prescott. When I need you to be great, you're just not great, man. I'm sorry.
All right, I have one last one before we take our final break of the show. Which 38-year-old or near 40-year-old, to be fair?
Hey, I like how you did that. Okay.
Which guy was better, Tom Brady or LeBron James?
This is a great
Keep it 100.
I'm going to keep it 100, man. It's Lebanon James, man. Bottom line, LeBron, what he's doing at his age, still looking like a 22-year-old jumping out of the gym, playing more minutes than he would like right now, carrying AD, carrying AR-15. And right now, LeBron looks like he's an MVP candidate, and we're not even a month into
the other guy won a Super Bowl, but don't let that get in the way.
You know, just because you said LeBron, I'm going with Tom Brady. You can't argue it. Like, he actually has been doing it, and he is over 40, and he was winning Super Bowls.
Yes.
Like, you can't beat that.
They're the only two guys of the modern era that have even been close to being that great as they got into their 40s or near 40s. So, good stuff. And again, 100 days away from the Super Bowl in Las Vegas, Nevada. I can no longer go to Las Vegas, band, but you guys can.
You want to go? I got you. You going to be there? I'll see you there.
And by the way, that's keeping it 100.
All right. That's true.
Coming up, we got all your headlines, including the big games of the day, the Chiefs and Dolphins, the Bills and the Bengals, the Cowboys and the Eagles, and of course, it all starts in Germany, and that's where we're going to start right after this. Hey, welcome back to the Carton Show.
Let's go!
Great to have you here. Look at the cheater right there. 5 yards of separation against every cornerback and safety in the league. Headline number one. It's the game that starts Sunday off out in Germany. It's Miami. It's Kansas City. The Chiefs, of course, coming off an embarrassing loss against the Denver Broncos. Somehow, though, it's Kansas City that's favored in this game against the best offense in all of football. So let's go to the man himself, Mr. Tyreek Hill. What is Kansas City going to get from you on Sunday? Go ahead.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter where we play at. I mean, obviously, it would have been great to play in KC, but it really doesn't matter where we play at. You feel me? They're going to get this work wherever, though. Look, y'all ready to use that bulletin board material?
I'm going to start talking like that. You feel me? You're going to get this work.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound right. In any event, listen, that's not even being a bad guy. That's a guy with a big smile on his face going, here's the reality. I'm the best dude in the game right now. I know how your defense is. I know who your cornerbacks are. And I know full well I'm going to be open. I could do it domestically. I could do it internationally. But I'm going to do it.
Yeah, and on top of that, when you have that much swagger and that much confidence, it's really indicative to how well Tua's playing, right? That you have a quarterback, no matter how fast I run, no matter where I'm on the field, he's going to get me the ball.
That's a really good point.
And so what I like about Tyreek, especially being a Dolphin, from day one, when he landed in the building, he goes, we have a quarterback in Tua. Nobody believed him. Nobody said anything. Everybody was like, oh, Tua, whatever, you're injury prone. Tyreek's like, listen, dude, I'm not only in practice watching this guy get me the ball, I'm getting it done with him.
Because you're right. If you do go back in time, we've clarity now because it's already happened.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember him saying, Tua is a more accurate passer than Patrick Mahomes.
Yes,
and we were like, man,
get out of here.
You're crazy.
You're not keeping it a buck.
And here we are a year and a half later, and while I would still take Mahomes over anybody in the NFL, to be fair, Tua has lived up to
Yes.
that braggadocio from his wide receiver.
Right, and so for when you have that, we talked about it a little earlier in the week, that kind of that quarterback to receiver combination. It goes back to how Tyreek started with Mahomes. Tua's back there like he's down there somewhere, so now I can just let it rip, right?
Yeah.
When you have that security blanket, man, you can feel like you can go against anybody. It doesn't matter who you're going against.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Have you ever played with a quarterback whose arm got stronger throughout his career?
Oh, yes.
And I only ask you that question because my knock on Tua, and a lot of people's were, well, he underthrows a lot of balls, and Waddle and Tyreek are coming back a lot to catch balls that are underthrown, and you have not seen that as much this year. You may have seen it against the Bills in that game where that offense just wasn't right, and give the Bills defense a lot of credit for it. But it seems this year that he's not underthrowing Tyreek or Waddle as much as he did over the last year.
Well, I'll give him a lot of credit. He changed his physique, and I think it has a lot to do with his ability to start from the base all the way up, his legs in particularly.
Yeah,
give
his
him a
thick
little
legs,
bit
yeah.
more. But when you look at Tyreek Hill, his numbers have just gone up all across the board from when he was with the Kansas City Chiefs and now that he's with the Miami Dolphins. And I give a lot of credit to Tua.
Sure.
But even more credit can be given to Mike McDaniel.
Yes.
Mike McDaniel for even leaning into it, understanding he is our best player.
Mm-hmm.
And if we want to win, if we want to be the type of offense that we believe that we can be, we have to allow him to be involved, regardless of if he gets the ball, which he still gets the ball, but he opens everything else up.
And Craig, you had said it a while ago. This is a team that really throws the ball to set up the run.
Right,
And
they reverse
it. So what is interesting about this outfit, especially in the Miami Dolphins, is when you have somebody who can get you down the field in big plays. You have a Waddle who can pretty much take a slant and go. When you have Mostert who's great in the backfield. Now you're saying to her, hey man, I don't need you just to be that guy. I just need you to don't throw it away from me.
Right.
Just be in cruise control because we have guys who can make the play for you.
Yeah, the other interesting thing about Mike McDaniel on this offense is that when they first come out of the huddle, it's a very basic offensive look. One wide receiver left, one wide receiver right, a tight end on either side, left or right, and whether it's a Mostert or when he comes back, A-Chain in the backfield. And then off of that, they do so many different things, whether it's guys in motion left, guys in motion right, different routes. But the initial look of that offense is not all that unique, right?
It's not. You pretty much know where they're going to be, but you don't know how to cover it because, you want to give a guy like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle because they have tremendous speed, world-class speed. You want to give them cushion. And that's almost disrespectful to a receiver because it's like, oh, you're scared.
Right.
And so you give them everything underneath. And these are two guys that if they get the ball in their hands quick, which is what Tua wants to do, get the ball out of his hands, then now their run after catch ability it just increases. Well, if you press them, that's where they're even more dangerous. So it's like if you're danged if you do, you're danged if you don't.
All right, so real quick, let's just play out the Kansas City side of this very quickly. Sorry, Will.
No.
And that is you're coming off a bad loss. And to be fair for them, an embarrassing loss against the Denver Broncos. Bad football team. First loss ever with Patrick Mahomes in Denver. You've got Travis Kelce coming out talking about how in all his years in Kansas City, he's never experienced this kind of drought with their offense. And now you're going up against a team that you know is going to score, meaning you're going to have to score. And your offense really hasn't been right all year. So the question can now be asked. If Miami does what we think they might do and Kansas City doesn't match it and they lose what will be their second consecutive game, even though they get the bye week to try to figure things out, they didn't make any acquisitions at the trade deadline. They didn't go out there and get a better wide receiver or a better running back that might have been available to them. Right. And you come out of the bye week against an Eagle team that has revenge from the Super Bowl on their minds and can't wait to get another shot at you. Meaning, we're in a situation with Kansas City right now that we have not seen since Mahomes first started for them, and that is a losing streak.
And they're starting to crack, right? And you talk about Travis Kelce on a podcast being very adamant and honest about where he's at in his offense and what he's expected and hasn't seen on tape. And when you have a tight end, your star number one guy, saying, hey, man, we have the mental errors, the timing's off, we're not beating man covers, we're not even beating zone covers. A lot is put on Patrick Mahomes to be that guy at times. And last week, what did we see? We saw him under pressure, doing the whirly bird, trying to get out the pocket, make plays. A lot of the things that they depended on isn't coming into fruition for whatever reason. And then you don't have the supporting cast with the other three receivers showing up. And I don't think part of it is, too, they have 6 or 7 receivers that they use in different ways. And I think that's throwing off the timing within their offense. So I don't know who the Kansas City Chiefs are right now. I know they're a better outfit than what they look like against the Broncos, without the doubt. I expect them to be better against the Dolphins. But if you're Patrick Mahomes, man, you cannot get blown out against the Dolphins.
So for me, I don't even look past the bye. This game is very important. Just get through this game, because after the bye, Andy Reid is a different.
He's the best coach in the history of football.
So you almost chalk that up as a win. I don't care who you play because of that. So for me, it's just about going into this game and developing the trust that you mentioned that we're hearing that's not there, that's not present when we hear Travis Kelce speak. Like, you got to really see it.
Yep.
You got to get some production from some of these other guys going into that bye, so that Andy Reid, your guy who is going to put you in a great position coming out of that bye, has some confidence in those guys.
I'll also reiterate what I've been saying since the draft in April. And that is that Brett Veach, the general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs, has not done his job. Because every year, and this year in particular, I sat here, so this is not Monday morning quarterbacking. I've said it every week since April. They do not go out there and upgrade their wide receiver talent to support the great quarterback they've got. And at some point, I don't care who you are, that bites you in the rear end. And I think you're seeing that right now.
I disagree.
Go ahead.
I disagree with that, because we're saying that now because they're struggling.
But I've said it since April.
But
I have. Every week I keep telling you,
but
when is Kansas City going to go out there and get a big free agent that gives Patty Mahomes a legitimate target? He's got one guy, and that's Kelce. And as great as Kelce is, and he's probably the greatest tight end from an offensive standpoint, not blocking, in the history of football, where's the wide receiver that you need to get open down the field? The guy doesn't exist.
So for me, they've been getting open. They've just had too many drops.
Yeah.
And when they catch the ball, it's like, oh, you hit them, fumble. The turnovers is getting them.
Well, I would fire Brett Veach anyway. All right, and I don't say that, glibly, because, just something. Anyway, it's holiday season. Hate to fire you now. All right, headline number 2: the Cincinnati Bengals and the Buffalo Bills, a rematch of last year's AFC divisional playoff game. If I remember that game, and oh boy, do I, the Cincinnati Bengals pimp-slapped and embarrassed the Buffalo Bills offensive line and their defensive line and ran right down their throats as soon as they got that 17-point lead. So the Bills remember that game. It was a stink on that organization. And now you've got Kansas City all of a sudden, for the first time this year, flying high. Burrow is back. Offense looks great. Mixon's running like the rock star he is as a running back. They just blew out the San Francisco 49ers. But here comes Josh Allen, the cowboy, the stallion, the Mustang, coming into Cincinnati going, I'm back. Break it down.
Yeah, for me, it's Josh Allen. Can he be consistent, right? Like, we know what he's capable of, but we can't regress to see what he did against the Jaguars, right? Like, this is a big matchup. Joe Burrow is here. He's playing big-time football. He's not just doing it with his arm. He's doing it with his legs. The defense is backing up. Joe Mixon, we talked about it in nausea. He's popping off the tape. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. If you're Josh Allen in this game, you got to stay apart, right? Because you know what they can do. Joe Burrow can get up ahead, and he goes pull into cruise control, and you got Joe Mixon shooting out the back.
Look, you need to score 27 points to win this game, if not, much more than that. The Bills' defense is somewhat suspect because of injuries, and I think the Bengals' defense can be had too, especially when you have a great quarterback like the Bills do. Here's the rub on this game. You win this game. Obviously, if you're Cincinnati, you go to 5-3. So worst case, you stay paced with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we wait to see what Baltimore does against Seattle and what the Browns do. I'm going to chalk them up as a W against the Cardinals. So you don't really gain ground necessarily, but you don't lose any ground, right? I could make the argument, matter of fact, I might make the argument, that the loser of this game is going to have a very tough time getting back into the playoff picture. This is that significant a game.
Yeah, for me, it's because if you talk about with the Bills, especially in the division they're in, Miami's here, right? The Jets are still kind of crawling around. So if you lose this game against the Bengals, now you're looking at a situation where, consistently,
Fourth loss.
Stephon Diggs is going to have a problem. You may see a tablet or two get thrown. Josh Allen is like, well, I like times like this because when I lose, the highs just seem that much greater. Yeah. Not right now. It's week 9. You got to go, buddy. Yep. And so the rest of the division is winning and ready to take off, and they can't get stubbed.
And listen, scheduling is an issue for these teams moving forward because they're not easy. And if you go to your 4th loss now, look, Would I be shocked if they make it? No. But it makes the playoffs a very tough run because you're probably not going to win your respective divisions. And that's why I view this game as a playoff game. And I'll be honest, I do have a rooting interest in this game. And for the first time in a while, I need Cincinnati to win this game. Because from a Jet fan perspective, if I can get the Bills to their fourth loss and Kansas City can find themselves and beat the Miami Dolphins, all of a sudden my pretty New York Jets are right there in first place. But speaking of the schedule, right? They've, of course, got the Bengals. The Broncos are no longer a guaranteed win because they just beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And then before the bye week for Buffalo, a loss against the Jets, a loss at Philadelphia. And then coming out of the bye week, the first 3 games are not easy. No guarantee you make the playoffs if you're the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I'm with you. If I'm the Buffalo Bills, man, this is a must-have.
I'm
Bottom
with you on
line.
that.
You got to come out and you got to be ready for the win because you know one thing Bengals are going to do. They're going to score, and they got a defense to back them. And the thing about Josh Allen, he can't have it on wild Cowboy games. He has to be smart with the football.
This is a must-win for the Bengals, too. Like, let's be honest. Like, the Pittsburgh Steelers winning last night,
was huge.
That was huge.
Yeah, pressured them a little bit.
Yeah, because you said it. You expect Cleveland to win against the Cardinals.
I do.
You look at where the Baltimore Ravens is. That's a big game.
They're at home.
They're at home. You kind of expect them to get it done. Even if they do win, they're still sitting in the same position in their division. So this is huge for both teams, but I think it's more important for the Bengals.
This is like, the NBA has the midseason tournament, which starts tonight. It's kind of like what the NFL has going on this weekend. These are like playoff games for a lot of teams that are on that bubble. Speaking of playoffs, it's a playoff game in Philadelphia.
Yes,
it's the Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys.
Go.
Dak Prescott's got more success in Philly than any opposing quarterback in the last decade. He's beaten them 8 out of the last 11 times, 3 consecutive wins, and 7 of the last 8. And he knows what the fans are like. He knows what the stadium's going to be like because he got a little taste of it when he played in the SEC all those years ago, and he remembers it. Here's Dak.
It's just a good atmosphere for football, honestly. I guess you say having grown up in the SEC, a lot of different venues and stadiums that just you can feel it. The time you get near the stadium, eat, sleep, breathe the game of football, the fans' excitement. When you walk into Philadelphia Stadium, it's no different. It feels like some of those old Saturday nights. Fans are going to get loud. You got to make sure your communication is top notch, and then and then it's fun always getting a win up there.
Look, this is one of those games where I think people may take Mike McCarthy for granted. You played for Mike, here's a seasoned head coach who's been in all the wars in Green Bay and now it's a few years now in Dallas. The crowd ain't going to get to him.
Yeah.
I don't think there's miscommunication between them. And I think, the aspect of this game, there's 2 parts of it that I think have to be talked about. One, it's the fact that Dak can lean back on personal experience. I own the Eagles. I've dominated the Eagles in my 8-year career. I'm 8-3 against them. So I can beat them at home. I can beat them on the road. Don't matter to me. I've had great success against them. That's one. And then the flip side, the thing that upsets me a little bit is that we're not going to see Jalen Hurts at 100%. As a fan with no real rooting interest in this game other than the cliche of I want to see a great game. To get a great game, you want both teams as healthy as possible, right? Jalen Hurts comes into this game, no matter how they want to color it or hide it, with a bone bruise on his knee.
Yeah.
You saw it happen against Washington when he kind of gimped off the sideline on a run that he wasn't even touched on. That's a big part of the Eagle offense. His ability, brilliantly, to evade tackles and sacks and get positive yards.
Yeah, it is. But when I look at Jalen Hurts, we saw the clip of him getting up from the presser when they asked him about the leg. And I think the reason why you have a player that just gets up and doesn't even acknowledge that question is because he understands it doesn't matter what I tell you.
Sure.
I have to go out there and have the same. Exactly. Yeah. I got to get it done. My standard of play doesn't drop just because I'm ailing right now. And he understands.
Stop there. Your standard of play may not change, but your quality of play might change.
Yeah, but I think they kind of go hand in hand. Like, he understands, like, I have to find a way to still be as impactful. It may look a little different, but even the quality of what I provide my team, it has to be up to par for us to win against a good outfit like the Dallas Cowboys.
You got to understand, like, we'll go back to that Rams game. He rushed for 75 yards, and he looked good. And then go to the Jets game where he was able to skip out of the pocket and avoid some of the sacks. He did a very good job. Now you're talking about a defense in the Dallas Cowboys who's going to be looking at him and looking to get to that knee and looking to lean on him and looking to make sure we get him on the turf. So I'm excited to see what the Cowboys do to him, particularly in collapsing that pocket. But overall, we didn't finish the clip when we showed Dak, but Dak talked about going into that building in hostile territory.
Yeah.
I experienced it because he talked about, hey, getting flicked off by the crowd. People being mooned, right? I remember my times when I would go see Baltimore, going into Baltimore, we would see old ladies dressed, dripped in purple, throwing us the birds, right?
Yeah, you don't have to do it.
Yeah, I didn't mean to throw the bird. I apologize.
No, you're good.
Right. Or throwing stuff at the bus, man. Like, it's something about going into that stadium, realize that, man, like, this is not a game anymore. This is grown man business.
But I also think that that's like gasoline in a tank, that you guys love that atmosphere.
Oh, you live for
it. I would think that you'd rather play in that atmosphere than go to a stadium that's half empty with lethargic fans who don't give a rat's
10 out of 10 all the time.
Yeah.
The best feeling is pulling up on that bus.
Yep.
And you see everybody out there tailgating, and they're flipping you off. They're booing. They're throwing stuff at the. You want that because you know how much this is going to hurt when you walk away or you get back on that bus and you're waving at them like, gotcha. See you later.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so. I'm glad you guys said that, because as fans, we always wonder, do you guys get up for that situation?
We pay attention to it.
Are you aware of what the fans are doing to
And
you?
we hear it all. There ain't enough headphones out here that can cancel the noise. We hear it. We just don't react to it. We do it on the field. That's how we show up.
I've said all week long, and this is the game we've been waiting for. It's on Fox, 4 o'clock on Sunday. This is not a knock on Philly. They are the best team record-wise in the NFL right now. But I've got this belief in Dak Prescott, A, because of his past success against the Philadelphia Eagles, and B, because I think you have the most confident the Cowboys have been all year, more so than their blowout of the Giants. More so than the blowout of the Jets or the Patriots. They got a little taste of humble pie.
Yes.
They pulled their bootstraps up, beat the Chargers, close game, blew out the Rams. I think Dallas has a good game Sunday against Philly. Regardless, we'll see you Monday to talk about it right here on FS1.